Josh and Tim. What?
Never mind. We're good. It says live now. Okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, once again, welcome to Saints on Cinema. I am Tim Wild.
And I'm Josh Edlow.
And this is Daniel LaRusso, arriving from 1986, five, six.
I think that's a
shopping prices. Yeah, this is the original toy. Wow. Buy a car. Anyway, all right. So Josh and I separately, 1,000 miles away from each other, have gone to see the premiere of the Cobra Kai, the first 2 episodes, called the pilot, and a viewing of the big screen of the original Karate Kid movie, which to me was the highlight of my day. It was freaking awesome. But we are here to give our reactions. We have not consulted with each other. We're not doing like a full review. We're just going to talk about thoughts we've had. We've been talking about this consistently through our videos for many trailers, many teasers, and we've had a lot of concerns and objections and a little glimmer of hope from the more recent trailers. But I'm just going to ask Josh. Josh is the bigger. We're both huge Karate Kid fans, but I think Josh is a little more passionate about it. But so I'm going to ask Josh first. Josh, what did you think of the first 2 episodes of Cobra Kai? Well, before we get into that, we want to talk about this premiere situation. These were for a few theaters all over the country that were doing this pre-screening. It doesn't come out until May 2nd. Today is the 25th of April. And my biggest concern, and I'll let you say whatever you need to, not concern, but it kind of ruined it, was I thought they were going to show the Karate Kid movie and then show the first 2 episodes of the Cobra Kai leading right into it. It's not what happened. Show up and start showing the episodes, and it starts with the fight like the last trailer did, and I thought it was going to be a long trailer for the show we were about to watch and then go to the movie and then go to the 2 episodes. No, they started with the first 2 episodes of Cobra Kai. In my screening, half the people left after that. They paid like $13 to watch 2 episodes of a show that's going to be available for $9.99, the whole series, in a week. And then they left. Was that pretty much your experience?
Yeah, that was my only complaint about any of it. I said the exact same thing. In fact, my son went with me, and we were sitting there, and I thought the exact same thing. They started showing it and go, maybe this is just like a trailer. It just seems to make sense that they do the movie first because the movie leads into everything else. So it was like, it'd be a perfect chronology.
Right.
So, you watch the first 2 episodes and then you go back in time to watch everything. I almost wanted to walk out. I just was like, well, I've already seen this. So, So, but other than that, that was my only objection, was that.
Really?
Yeah.
See, and I thought it was just weird. It's like when you go to a new release of a movie that's like a sequel, which this was, and some theaters will show the original and then they show the sequel. They did this one backwards, and I'm like, well, that's great. And stuff I wanted to talk about, I couldn't remember. I didn't take anything to write down. I really need to start doing that. But I forgot a bunch of stuff because then I was just enjoying the Karate Kid. It was awesome. But I was like, well, now I can't remember half the stuff that happened. It's like watching conference sessions. You watch the first session, like, oh, that was amazing. I'll never forget that talk. And then you watch the next one, you say the same thing in the 3rd session, 4th session, and 5th session. And then you're like, I can't remember what they talked about in the first session. So now I can barely remember what happened in Cobra. I remember what happened, but I can remember the cool stuff I want to mention. But just to start off, this was not a regular episode. It's our day off. We were out in the movies today, so we're wearing our non-proselyting clothes.
It's a preparation day. It's a P day. Yeah.
It's preparation day. So only missionaries can't go to movies.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of Saints on Cinema versus a mission. Yeah. What's that?
Breaking the law.
Yeah.
So I would say, I don't know how many people were in your theater, but I was just
probably about 15 people,
yeah,
something like that, in really nice cushy seats. These were the lounge chairs and everything, but about 15 people.
Yeah, so I was just thrilled that we were not the only 2 people there. I think there were probably 7 or 8 people other than us, and everybody stayed for the movie, the original Karate Kid, and so Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But okay, so thoughts about Cobra Kai itself.
Yes, go ahead.
I was very surprised at how good I thought it was. I actually I had very low expectations going in because the trailers concerned me a lot. You know, Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka have not done a lot that are of a really big note. I mean, you know, in probably the last 15, 20 years, I can't think of anything that either one of them have done that I think is remarkable. So watching this and seeing the way that they did certain things and made certain choices, I was very intrigued, and I'm really excited to watch the rest of the series.
I am too. Didn't you feel like that? Like when it was over, you're like, hey, what next episode? You just want to like binge through the whole thing.
Exactly.
And this is absolutely going to be a binge show. Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially if you are a Karate Kid fan. If you're not a Karate Kid fan, I think you could probably still like it. If you've seen the movie, it'll be interesting to see how they turn out. But if you're a Karate Kid fan who really enjoys the movie, I think you're gonna love it, because I think they play all the characters really well. I initially didn't like the fact that Daniel just seemed like kind of a total jerk in the trailers, but I like it right now the way after I've seen it. The first episode really focuses on Johnny Lawrence. The second episode really focuses on Daniel LaRusso. So these two episodes are basically the episodes that kind of catch you up to speed on where they are. And I love the role reversal. I mean, there are certain things.
Absolutely. It was so good. So well done.
And some of the things that I caught that are very interesting. Johnny Lawrence is now living in the same apartment complex that Daniel was living in. And Daniel is now living in Encino with all the people that he hated, and he's a member of the same country club.
The same club. Yep, I noticed that.
He got all the spaghetti dropped on him.
Yep.
Ali and Johnny. So I just think that total role reversal is great, and I love the fact that his daughter plays a prominent role in the movie. She is now the 21st century Ali, and Johnny Lawrence's I guess what do you call him? Student is basically Daniel LaRusso. He lives in the same apartment complex.
Yeah.
He's a poor kid who's getting picked on by a bunch of rich kids. And this is Johnny Lawrence as Mr. Miyagi. And the thing that I love about it is that he's going back to his roots. He's not Mr. Miyagi. He is Johnny Lawrence / John Kreese 2.0 right now. You know? And so that's really great. And I also love that there's a big conflict that's brewing between Johnny and Daniel. They both have their own perspectives. This time you can understand both people's perspectives. I think it's really exciting to watch. I think they've done a good job so far, and I'm intrigued. And I'm actually, for the first time, not cautiously like worried that they're going to screw this up. It feels like they actually might have gotten it right so far. So
right, and that's the thing. I think it's what they I think it hit a home run is that you actually care about. I'm not gonna say both characters, because honestly, like we pointed out in the trailer, and I've been saying this to people for months now, Daniel is an arrogant, pompous punk. He really is. And he was a whiny brat character. I mean, when I was watching the movie tonight, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, this kid, he's a weenie. He doesn't deserve Ali. He's going through a hard time, but whatever. I've moved around. I've been the new kid. I understand that. I've been picked on, not like getting in, having bullies use martial arts on me on the beach in front of a bunch of people, including a girl I have a huge crush on. I've never had to experience anything that extreme, but I've been where he's been. The only thing that really makes you sympathetic to Daniel in the movie is that he's a total victim of really ruthless bullies, and you get that, and you want to watch him triumph over that with his tutelage with Mr. Miyagi, and then the victory at the end is just his achieving balance and earning the respect of the Cobra Kai. That's it. other than that, unless you were a teenage girl in the 80s and you thought Ralph Macchio was the hottest thing ever, there's not a lot to Daniel LaRusso that's really appealing as a character or really interesting to me. Johnny, on the other hand, as a kid watching it, he was just a jerk. He was just your blanket, just a high school bully. Things I noticed tonight that I've never noticed before, seeing on the big screen, was a lot of that transformation that happened with Johnny in the original movie that I've never noticed before. Reaction, seeing it bigger and seeing all the Cobra Kai responding in that last match with Daniel, when he told the whatever the kid was to sweep, or not sweep the leg, when he told the other kid to like break his knee, well, to hit the knee and take him out, and he'd take him out of the fight, and he wanted him out of commission. After that happened, Kreese is sitting there clapping, and I always noticed that, and the other kids are standing there, but the expressions on their face, seeing it tonight, I've never noticed how big and how transparent they were, that they were like, who is this guy? I've never seen this, or they're realizing that what they've been going through this whole time. I never noticed that before, and Johnny was at the front of them, and even Johnny in the background in the dojo during the challenging scene early in the movie, his response, he was fighting smiling, he was fighting like being all pompous and arrogant that his master was gonna, his sensei was gonna like take care of this for him. There was a little bit of fear when he saw Miyagi walk in. He was not like cocky about it. He was a little like trembling. He's like, who is it? What's gonna happen? He had a lot more emotion than I've ever given him credit for. And then seeing the first episode of Cobra Kai, you're watching him he's just at the bottom of the heap now. And so you're like excited about his coming out of it. And even though, like we said in the episodes before about the trailers, Johnny is instilling the things that he knows, the principles and the dogma of the Cobra Kai dojo, which is a threat to the Miyagi, principles. But you're seeing where this is helping Johnny survive, because you're seeing how much he's suffered in his family and clearly in his relationships. There's a little bit of tease about some dysfunctionality with his wife or ex-wife or girlfriend, whoever it was that he had a kid with. All those things, you're seeing the struggles and the problems that he had, including his son in one scene who's saying, who are you to try and give me guidance? You're a failure. You're a loser. And just seeing how much that stings him, Johnny's character was just explosive in this, and it started back in the Karate Kid movie, which I never noticed. My biggest revelation tonight was like how cool of a character he really was. I was blown away, and you really do. You sympathize. They show Daniel's kind of side of it too, but I've been saying this whole time from that first trailer where it showed the kick that we made fun of, which wasn't in the first episode, so I can't wait to see that. But when they show him, he's like showing his buddies, hey, come here. He's like, I kicked his face. He's like making a joke of it. I was just like, Daniel didn't have any room to be bragging about that fight. He barely got away from that. And if it was a real fight and not like a point system, he would have been just destroyed by Johnny. He was in no position to be so arrogant, and that's why you just want to just smack him. You just want to just Johnny, just let him have it. That was what I enjoyed.
I have a disagreement with that a little bit. I felt like Daniel in these episodes, it shows to me Daniel's kind of moved on from that. He won, so he's kind of moved on, and his life took a path where he's kind of. He says to him when he sees him, water under the bridge, right? Like, I'm not going in there, I'm not trying to rehash the past. And in his mind, Johnny comes in, he hugs him, he says, hey, how you doing? He offers to fix the thing for free for him, fix his car, do those things. Also, another thing I thought was really interesting is, at first I was like, how is he a car dealer? That doesn't make sense. But then you watch the original and you're like, you know what? Mr. Miyagi was all into cars. He had like 5 cars. You showed him how to fix cars. In the beginning of the second movie, it's him showing him how to fix a car. And then you see Daniel kind of going down there teaching all of his people how to, fix cars at one scene.
Right.
So, I felt like Daniel, when he was razzing him, he was just kind of, razzing an old buddy. He's like, oh, I kicked his face, and then you could tell though the difference is that for Daniel, that's all history. It's all in the past. He's all cool with it. And Johnny is still living it. He's like a serious Uncle Rico. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he really is. He's driving down the street. He's drunk driving, thinking about high school. You know, that's thinking about that fight. And I also love that they've given Johnny so much more depth. I was kind of wondering how they were going to do the Johnny is down on his luck and has no money situation, and explaining it through the rich stepdad who's just kind of trying to help him out. And he doesn't want to, you know, he doesn't want any of his help. I thought it was done very well. Like I said, after seeing this, I'm actually really excited to see the rest of it. And I was kind of bummed when the second show ended, and then they go into the Karate Kid Part 1, and I was like, oh, I want to see more of the Cobra Kai.
Right.
So
I agree with that, and I understand what you're saying about Daniel. And yeah, he's a little more sympathetic to Johnny, but the thing is he doesn't realize how he's coming across. And I love the setup. I love how we start with Johnny watching everything that whole day just fall apart for him. By the way, we're not going to give anything too much away. We're not going to give any details about anything, but spoilers. We're going to talk about a little bit of the plot. But Johnny is going into his day. He pulls up. He sees the billboard. They've shown this in the trailer. He's hearing on the radio, and you notice how subtly they introduce Ralph Macchio. How first you hear his voice on the radio, on the television, and then he sees the billboard, and then there's all the people in the dealership when Johnny has to go in there. Everyone in the dealership kind of has the back that looks like Ralph Macchio. They're all like short, dark-haired, Italian-looking guys. And then suddenly you're waiting for him to show up. And I love that. I love how uncomfortable and awkward Johnny was in that whole scene. It was just hilarious. It was really good comedy along with the tension. There's an amazing balance of that in the whole thing with all the characters. It was really tense, and he didn't want this awkward moment. But the thing is Johnny didn't have the same experience in the fight that Daniel did. Johnny kind of lowered himself and humbled himself, not because he lost, but because he embraced Daniel and recognized and as a fighter, as an equal. And throughout the movie, from the way he just I was just this loser kid, and he respected what he accomplished, not in winning the fight, but in dealing with the bullies, and he saw things going on with Allie, and that he stood his ground, and he was seeing this kid stick up for himself. And I think that in comparison to what he was seeing coming out of John Kreese really made him reflect on who he was and what he was doing. That's where he stepped down and lowered himself, and then he got almost killed in the parking lot right after that. Daniel, this was an accomplishment for him, and then he watched his master go save Johnny in the parking lot and everything, and it kind of came on equal ground. But one of them was declining in a way. I'm not saying being humble is a lowering of yourself, but one was lowering and Daniel was going up. And clearly, after the movies, he progressed and he's become very successful, and Johnny's not. So Johnny's in a predicament where he's like, what has this got me? Abandoning the Cobra Kai principles, maybe not in his heart, but he's not living that kind of life. He was not messing with people and picking fights and stuff. Like the guy, the funniest scene was the guy at the Quickie Mart or whatever with the pizza. That was so funny. I leaned over to my buddy. I was like, he's showing a lot of restraint right here, because he could have fought all these people all day. There were people messing with him. And then it's the kids that finally, push him over the edge when they throw the first punch. But I'm just thinking, Daniel, he doesn't understand how condescending and arrogant he is. He's being with Johnny. Yeah, to him it's his friend. He's like, hey, this is my old high school buddy. He's bringing over his other executives or whoever to come over and meet him. But that's the ignorance that he's going through. He doesn't see what he's actually doing, what he's putting off. And then, but here's the thing I liked about how they did Daniel. When he steps into the dojo to confront, we see that in the trailer. I love how they show the PTSD that he's experiencing when he's, just when he sees that sign, like in the trailer, he's freaked out when he sees the Cobra Kai dojo. Not like, oh, I can't believe he did it, what a jerk. But he's just like, he's kind of traumatized from it. He's remembering when he stepped into that dojo for the first time and made eye contact with Johnny several times. Then we came back with Miyagi and watched the showdown happen. That all came back to him. And when he walked in there, he saw the same mottos and the trophies and everything in the corners, and it was a broken down dojo. But you got to think the last time he was in that dojo was when he got jumped by the 3 in the 3rd movie. And he freaked, you know, all the security and the finances and the success in the world that he's experienced and the comfort in his family and his home, that didn't matter when he stepped into that dojo. And it was all back to him and Johnny and just his trauma as a child. So well done. And the music was good. It was low. The lighting was low. The other kid was in the other room, so it wasn't too intense. And Johnny was just the whole time was like, I'm right here. And because Daniel was kind of ready to start a fight with him, and then Daniel walks off, and I'm like, that's awesome. That built the tension and got you so excited. And for people that care about these characters, you're hooked and you want to know what's going to happen. And I said before, I didn't want to see a fight between Daniel and Johnny, but now I do. I don't know what I want the result to be, but they showed more trailers after that where it seems there's going to be some showdowns with them multiple places, it looks like. But I'm excited to see that because they're writing this script, so you're actually following and kind of rooting for both sides. But I do want to see a fight because they've built the tension and the 2 different angles so well that I'm just so curious what's going to happen.
So I like that you mentioned, and some things that I found really interesting was now that you know a little bit more of Johnny's backstory, you can understand why the circumstances with John Kreese at the beginning of part 2 were so traumatic for him. He's obviously looking for a father figure. He's not getting it from a stepfather. He obviously has some baggage there. You can see how John Kreese would have been a father figure to him more than just a sensei, similar to how Mr. Miyagi was with Daniel. And you know, imagine how traumatic it would be if Mr. Miyagi just turned on Daniel suddenly, what that would do to him. That's kind of what Johnny Lawrence has been going through, right? I mean, the only father figure he knew tried to kill him for not winning a fight. Because there's a scene in the movie in the first episode where he goes back to the scene where that happens.
Yeah.
Some other stuff that goes on with that as well. And I also love that Daniel's
just before you go on, Johnny was experiencing some PTSD as well, and it wasn't just depression and stuff. And I loved how they did that, how they were showing clips. And I said before in one of our reviews of the trailers, I was really hoping they're not going to get too overdone with the trailers or with the clips from the movies to show the connection like they do in other shows. I just want them just to play it. And I hope going forward, they did a lot of flashbacks because of those 2 things, you know, to kind of help you realize what he's experiencing with the PTSD and then the depression with Johnny. I hope they just go forward with that.
Right.
Without doing too much of it.
Right. And I also like how Daniel is kind of in a very awkward position right now because you saw the awkward position he was in with when he was talking to Johnny Lawrence at the Cobra Kai dojo, because now he's got a couple of things going on. There's his conflict with Johnny, but there's also a conflict with his daughter, who is kind of hanging out with people who are very similar to Allie's friends who wouldn't give Daniel the time of day. He has that issue along with trusting Johnny. I mean, Johnny's kind of telling him, you don't know who your daughter's friends are, and kind of explaining why he got in the fight with the young kids. But at the same time, he doesn't trust Johnny. So you got both of those things going on at the same time. So he's kind of stuck in a really awkward position of what do I believe and what's going on. So I like that as well. I think that they've done this really well, and they've set it up to where I'm more excited. I'm actually very excited about what's coming up next. I'm sold now on the series. I'm no longer, thinking that it's going to be terrible, and I think they might actually do something really well with it. So,
right. What did you think of all of the? I'm going to say the kind of the digs at millennials. There's quite a bit.
Yeah, there was, and I think, as I said in our, I think it was when we watched the 4th teaser trailer, the one that we kind of turned into okay, maybe this isn't going to be as bad as we think, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I said there that I thought that there's never been a more perfect time for the Cobra Kai to come back than right now, because the feelings that he is expressing about millennials is exactly what his generation and a lot of our generation feel about younger millennials. And you see some of that, like this kid Miguel, you know, saying things like, "Oh, don't you think you're over gentrification? You know, gentrifying?"
Right.
You talk about?
He's like, what? He's like, I mean, sensei.
He says stuff like when he says, "I have asthma," and he throws his asthma thing. He's like, "No more asthma or peanut allergy." Anything
No,
like
not anymore.
not anymore. That stuff at the door. And he's like,
make all that stuff up. All that made up crap.
I love when he goes,
that's what peanut allergy. Yeah, he's like, no more asthma, your peanut allergies and stuff. You leave that at the door.
But I love Miguel's response. Miguel's response is my favorite because he goes, those are real medical conditions. He goes, not in here. So, yeah, I just think it's like I said, I think I don't really have anything bad to say about any of it. I thought it was really well done. I don't have I think they may have over role reversed everything. I mean, I find it kind of strange how Johnny is now living. I mean, it's kind of cool that they're doing it, but like they went maybe a little too far with it. Like, does Johnny really have to live in the South Side apartments? And would Daniel really sign up to be a part of the Encino Country Club after what happened to him at the country club? Like, would he ever want to be associated with people hooked up in that? You know,
I think so, because at the same time, part of it is also his feeling like, you know what, I've arrived. Even though I resented them as a kid, now I'm actually, oh, cool. Actually, now that it's me, it's kind of a cool thing. And I don't think he ever, you know, when he went to pick up Allie and interacted with her parents, there was that class. That's where that issue really came up. It didn't have anything to do with Johnny or Allie or anything like that, other than the embarrassment of his station wagon not working in front of her parents. Well, now that he's accomplished, he feels like, you know, that's something that he can be like, you know what? I now matter in this world that before I was excluded from, where people look down on me because I didn't meet this class requirement. Now he is that class and he's very successful. And he's like, you know what? And I want my daughters and my kids not to worry about that same stuff I did. I wasn't bothered. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of little nods and little specific things I kept commenting on the whole time. My buddy Zach, I think, was annoyed with me talking through half of it, but it was good. I think I think that's what they were, as nods, instead of like them trying to write excuses and trying to just force the connections on you, because they were subtle. I mean, the first time he came down, I think it was even 106. Was it the same apartment number that Miguel lives in?
I didn't notice the same apartment number. But I don't know. I don't even think we ever saw Miguel's apartment. We saw Johnny's apartment.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, you're right on everything there. And I think there's also, you can see some of that struggle with Daniel already. Like, he wants to be on the nice side of things, but at the same time, he doesn't want his daughter to become one of those rich kids that he hated in high school.
Right.
So, yeah, I think everything is kind of starting to make sense now of things and seeing all that. And I'm really excited to see, because you can tell in the trailers that they showed after the premiere that there is going to be some interaction and discussion about Mr. Miyagi. There's a scene that they showed where Daniel is at Mr. Miyagi's gravesite talking to him. So,
I didn't catch that. I missed that part.
Yeah, there is a part there. So that was exciting, because you're going to learn a little bit more about him and where he's been, I think. So I'm kind of bummed that it's only 10.
I called it, by the way. Remember, I mentioned in one of our reviews, I said that he's going to walk by some newspaper or the medallion or his medal and everything, and that's going to be Mr. Miyagi. And that's exactly what it was. He talked to the picture frame, but it's the exact same thing with his trophies.
And, you know, the interesting thing is I felt like in this episode, in the second episode, really, you got to see why the Cobra Kai way might be appealing to people. the idea. I mean, the thing that was cool about Mr. Miyagi's brand of karate wasn't just about fighting. It was a way of life. It was a way of achieving balance, those types of things. And you're starting to see that the Cobra Kai in the first movie, all you really got was it was about fighting, and it was about, you know, beating people up if they get in your way. And it's really not that. He brings that up when he talks about strike first. He says, okay,
Right.
what happens if you see a cute girl? Are you going to wait for someone else to strike, or are you going to strike first? You know, it's about being aggressive and being confident and you see Miguel try to do that when he goes to approach the attractive rich girls, you know, and then someone else jumps in before him and he sees, I should have, you know, he gets a little angry about it. So you can see how the Cobra Kai way is also a way of life. And it's going to be really interesting to see, because you see in the previews that he's going to get more than just Miguel as students. He's going to start getting a lot of students, seeing how these students interact with the rest of the high school. And I'm assuming they're probably all in the same high school again. I mean, they'd have to be.
They
right?
were before. Yeah.
So,
Well, because Johnny's student, I mean, Miguel is in the same school as Daniel's daughter, because she's
right.
there in the cafeteria with her friends. And I liked how they did that too, by the way, that class system in that scene that you mentioned where, you know, he was stepping up, or he was going to go talk to the hot girls, even though they're out of his league. And I think it's interesting that class barrier has changed so much since the first movie came out. I don't know if that's the way this show was trying to push that, but I mean, that existed. It was more about the parents' perception than the kids. I think now in high schools, I mean, I don't know. I'm not in high school, but I think those kind of things have become a lot more extreme, where the kids, and that's always been a trope in television shows about teenagers in high school, but the kid at Miguel's table being so sarcastic about all the rejection and everything, how she's way out of his league. I mean, I remember that from movies like 10 Things I Hate About You and stuff like that. That's always been a common story thread.
Right.
And I liked it. It was really well done, really fun.
And there was also some of the class issues between the high school students in the first movie. I mean, the part where Johnny and his friends, all the Cobra Kais and the two girls come up in the car, and then, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Mrs. LaRusso's there, and he says, "I really liked your car, Mrs. LaRusso." I mean,
yeah.
They all kind
of. Allie's friend, when she introduced him to Daniel, and she's like, "Oh, what kind of bike do you have?" And she's like describing him like thinking he has a motorcycle. He's like, "That's it's a bicycle."
Yeah,
like that was just her expectation. And all the kids like, "Where'd you get this loser from?" Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really have anything bad to say about it so far. We'll see where it goes. I think I'm pleasantly surprised at how well it's gone so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with it, because it seems like it's going to be a really good homage to the first one. Certainly more than the abomination that was the Jaden Smith Karate Kid movie was. And
pearls before swine. We'll get there.
And also, I'm really hoping. So I couldn't help but think as I was watching the original Karate Kid that they've got to have some sort of cameo from another Cobra Kai, because one of those Cobra Kais has to still be in the area, and when he sees the Cobra Kai, he's got to come and check it out, right? I mean, if Dutch doesn't make a return,
your favorite Cobra Kai, the biggest jerk in the group, worse than Johnny, is Dutch. He's your favorite.
And you know what? I was telling my son, because he asked me the same thing, because I said to him on the way back, I go, "I really hope Dutch shows back up." And he's like, "Well, why do you like him?" And I said, "Because he is a true villain. The rest of them aren't. They're all just bad. They have bad teachers, and you can see glimmers of hope in all of them. Because even Tommy in the first movie is still kind of a jerk the whole way through. But at the beginning of the second, he's the one that's trying to talk John Kreese off the ledge when he's trying to choke Johnny out. So they all have their little bit of redemption in the movie, except for Dutch, because he's a true villain. He just wants
Well, what about Kreese? Kreese is the real villain.
Well, sure, but I'm talking about the kids, the high school kids, guys, you know.
And you said that he's the one that you'd want to hang out with if you were in high school. That's what you said.
I did. I said, I just feel like I'd want to party with that guy. You know, I mean, I don't know. He just seems like such a I love it. So anyway, I'm hoping one of them shows up and kind of plays some small role in it, you know. And I want to find out what happened to John Kreese. I'm hoping we find out what happened to him.
Yeah, I do too. And I think they will. Didn't they show a picture of him or something? Was it in one of the teasers? Wasn't, or in one of the trailers for the rest of the episodes?
Yeah,
wasn't there?
There's a scene where Johnny is looking at the picture of John Kreese. So there's a lot of still open-ended stuff that could come through. And so far, like you said, I think they've done a good job of tying the nostalgia in, but not making it overly nostalgic. Like what was it, Fuller House?
Yeah.
You know, they didn't do anything like
Girl Meets World and all those. Yeah.
They actually did. They tied it into the story to where it totally makes sense, and it didn't feel overblown, and it felt like it was appropriate every time that they did it. I like that they showed different perspectives on things. You know, like even the part where at the very beginning when they show the kick and he's laying on the floor, and that's kind of how they show that at the end, and then they go to the to the present day. I thought it was all really well done. You know, I mean,
I did like the intro, how it showed the points too. I thought that was really cool how they showed his point and his point and his point in slow motion and everything. It's like it was a video game or a recapping on like watching a sports review of it. I did like that. I think the contrast between where he was right there and to where he is in his life, and just watching just that first day with Johnny, that was my favorite thing, was watching just everything going wrong and his holding back and his resentment towards everyone around him. That he's just he almost gave up. He just gives up, but he has so much pride that when his stepdad comes in, his stepdad's there. That was some of my questions. How come Johnny, he was a rich kid. How come he's in this predicament where he's now, down and out in life? And how come, where's Daniel's mom? And they kind of clarify she's living somewhere, doesn't have a great relationship with Sam. I guess, Johnny's. It sounds like Johnny's mom's dead. That's what it sounded like. Didn't it sound like to you? And both parents possibly, or sounds like are gone. It's just a stepdad.
Right, and the stepdad. I also like the fact that the stepdad seems willing to help him because he promised the mom that he would. But at the same time, Johnny doesn't want to take the money. Like, the reason he's not down and out is because he doesn't want his stepdad's help.
It's that pride. And I like that. I like that he's trying to stand up.
Right. So that's another thing that I liked about it, was seeing it all make sense as to why Johnny's down and out, and also getting to kind of understand why he described himself as an ex-degenerate at the beginning of the first movie, right? Because he felt like he was a degenerate. I mean, it all makes sense as to why he is the way that he is. And makes you kind of feel for him. And also you feel like he's justified in things that he's doing. And I also love that they even kind of, tied in like fan conspiracies and cultures, like the whole, he goes, it was an illegal kick. Like, I love that. Yeah. That's a total fan theory, that it was an illegal kick and he should have never won. That goes the whole justice for Johnny. Johnny's the true hero, stuff. That's a fan theory that's come through. So
yeah,
I love that they tied that in. And so yeah, it's great. So go see it.
What'd you think? I was just wondering what'd you think of the relationship struggles that Daniel seems to be having with his daughter Sam? What'd you think of that? I liked it, but what'd you think?
I liked it. I thought it was appropriate. I thought it was good, especially it seems you see in all of the movies that Daniel struggles with relationships in general. I mean,
you mean because he's a little weenie and no one?
Well, you can just tell he's damaged, right? Like he has a bad relationship with his mom from the very beginning. He's upset that she's moving him out there. He's got a chip on his shoulder for that. So there's that. Girlfriends, every girlfriend that he has a bad relationship with, or the relationship doesn't work out for whatever reason, other than Kumiko in the second movie, and she just takes off because she found apparently true love is not as important as a dance scholarship in China. So which I've always thought was bad, because I loved Kumiko and I wish she would have continued in 3, except that instead of that debacle of, I don't even remember her name, it wasn't even
the girl from those old Disney movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, so I like that he always has these problems with his relationships. In fact, I find it very interesting that he and his wife seem to have a really great relationship, and he's having struggles relating to his daughter and even his son. He's having a hard time with
Yeah.
both. They're
Trying to
different.
get, yeah, and I like that too. That's another tip on the millennial stuff is that his son, he can't get, Daniel is so active, and he's, even when, he playing soccer, hanging out with his friends at the beach, like he was outgoing and trying to be social and he wanted to ride the bike. He was a physical kid, even though he didn't have an iPad and stuff like that when he was a kid. I think Daniel is trying to push his son to get out, just like the prophets tell us to get your mind off the screen and open your eyes to what's around you, and don't be so invested in your devices. I think that was really, really cool. And where Daniel's just like, I'm just going to drink at this party because I'm just like, Sam's not here. That's frustrating me. And I can't even get through to my son to get him to put down his video game just to walk with me to get a drink, to get a soda.
Right. Right. So I think that those are going to be good. And I'm interested to see where that plays out. Cause I mean, there's only so much they can do in 10 episodes,
Yeah. And I'm really hoping people watch it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to promote it. We'll do our part to promote the Karate Kid.
Right. All 40 of you who subscribe to our YouTube channel now, you all need to watch it. Subscribe to YouTube Red. The first month is free. I want to hear what every one of you guys think, because the Karate Kid's awesome, and whoever says it's not is wrong. I'm looking at you, Ashley Bowden, because you're the one. You're the one who always says something about it. So yeah.
It's not overrated. I've never seen.
And my daughter, Piper, who today told me when I said, hey, do you want to go see the movie with me? She said, nope, not a fan. And it broke my heart. Totally broke my heart. It's ruined our relationship forever now.
Oh, you have something to relate to Daniel now.
Yeah, that's part of the reason.
Broke a relationship.
Maybe that's part of the reason why I related so well to Daniel, because now my daughter and I have a rift that I don't know if we can get past. She even said Rocky was bad.
Wow. Well, which Rocky?
No, she said I don't like Rocky either.
Just the character, just the franchise. Wow.
But I think
I would say that that's your failure as a father, but my kids have no respect for Superman, so I don't have any defense.
I think the Rocky thing was just to get a rise out of me. I don't think she really believes that. I think she just she saw how shocked I was when she said she wasn't a fan of Karate Kid, and so she just threw in, nope, I don't like Rocky either. And I was like, so
awesome.
Anyone's looking for a 10-year-old girl, I have her for sale.
Sounds good. We'll post that on Twitter.
Right on.
All right. Well, I'm excited about it too. I think the Daniel's wife seems really interesting. How she kind of counters him. I really like that dynamic between them, where it's not just, here's my hot wife, I'm successful, but she challenges his mentality, his decisions, but she's also really supportive. That she kind of is a good woman behind the man kind of example. I really like that. I like if they did if they only introduced Daniel and Johnny just to get them into the story, and then spun off with Sam and Miguel and the other guys, I would be still just as invested. I think they did such a good job. I'm just as excited to see what's going to happen there. I liked all the scenes back in the high school. I liked the lunchroom scene. I was just as excited about all of that as I was the nostalgic side of me, enjoying my childhood hero again on the screen. Which the more I think about the Karate Kid recently, I don't know why I thought Daniel was my hero for a while. He was never my hero, but I really liked him. Now it's so weenie.
Billy Zabka has just totally ruined the Karate Kid for you. Wonderful.
He's a wimp. I've always thought he was kind of like whiny, and even as a kid watching like the second one, I was like, he's such a goober,
That's what's so great about it, is he is a wimp, and he stands up to the bullies and he wins. That's what's so great about it.
That's what I like about the movies. There's the movie, the Bill Conti score, emphasizing the feelings that you're experiencing as you're watching this kid overcome his obstacles, but mostly it's the tutelage and the encouragement of Miyagi and the lessons that he's teaching. That's what you're getting out of it. not about Daniel as much as you would think the Karate Kid is about Daniel. It is, but it isn't. He drives the movie, but he's not what brings it home, if that makes any sense. Anyway, so excited. No?
It doesn't make any sense. But well, I'm excited for it. I would say anybody who's on the fence about getting YouTube Red, I've learned that the first month is free. I hope that they're going to put it all out on at one time like Netflix does, so you can binge it and not do it weekly like TV does. That would stink. But
I don't know. I still haven't looked that up. I hope they just shoot them all out at once. I hope they do like Netflix does.
And the great thing is it's 10 30-minute episodes. You could totally binge that in a couple of days, or even a day if you're really a loser and have nothing to do. So
yeah, it's just a couple hours really. They're like 25-minute episodes, I think.
Yeah.
And then if it's only 10 episodes for the first series or the first season, so yeah.
You do it at between lunch and dinner. So
yeah. Yep. All right. Well, okay. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Do you have any other thoughts? So, what'd you think about the music and stuff? Did you think it was really cool? Well done.
That was actually another thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something I was going to bring up. Is it shows the contrast between the two? Because even I mentioned Billy or Johnny Lawrence is a serious Uncle Rico. Listen, he's even listening to the music of the day. It's like he hasn't progressed at all since that moment. He is exactly in the same spot. He's listening to Foreigner, and he mentions Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, he tells Miguel to change his ringtone to something cool like Guns N' Roses or something. He's like, "What? Who's that?"
He goes, "Who's that?" And he goes, "I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that."
Yeah.
But the thing is, think about it. He's driving an old Pontiac, right? A Pontiac Firebird from the time. He's listening to 80s music. He's driving down the road thinking about high school and smiling when he sees Allie and he thinks about the fight and does all that stuff. He is stuck in this moment. And now, I think this show is going to be about redemption and not about revenge in any way. It's more Johnny needs to be redeemed, and so he can move on with his life. And I feel like Daniel is going to need to learn how to get balance without Mr. Miyagi. So
Daniel definitely needs balance. He needs to be brought down a peg and to consider other philosophies like what Johnny's actually experiencing and what he's trying to do. Johnny, when he walked out of the dealership, he wasn't like I just want to take out Daniel. He wasn't bitter and mad about it until Johnny or Daniel kept throwing his face, gives him the bonsai tree, all that stuff. Those little things just help put salt on the wound. But he still, bit his tongue. He wasn't going after anyone. He just left. Even when he saw it was LaRusso's daughter, Sam, that caused the car, he just left. He just let it go. And I thought that was really mature of him. And then Daniel's the one he's the one that stepped into the dojo. He's the one that was making accusations, and based on the kid was talking about the assault, and he was he's trying to do the right thing as a parent. He cares about this guy that his daughter likes, and so he was trying to do what he thought was a good reaction to and stepping up. And still, that's brave. He's going into the dojo that's haunted him all these years, and then confronts Johnny. I don't think Daniel is just so overconfident he thinks he could just take out Johnny. I don't believe that. And just I want to see how they write this conclusion to both their sides, where they're head to head again. I don't want it to be like just some little if they just find brotherly love at the end and just kind of sweep it all under the carpet. That'll be boring.
I do feel like it's going to go that way. Like if I had my prediction would be that somehow they mesh the Cobra Kai way with the Miyagi Do way and come up with a new karate that fits it together, and they open up a dojo together and fall.
Oh gosh, that would be so dumb. That would be so boring.
Well, but the thing is though, is it depends on how they do it. There's tension there. I feel like right now things are in a good spot, so I'm just going to hold my breath now and hope that it all works out. And who knows, if it works out, there might be more seasons. So,
right. Have you ever heard of the show Sidekicks? It was an '80s show about this little kid that was an orphan. He was a little Asian kid. He was actually I don't remember his name, but his name was Ernie. And the Pizza Boy kid in the Ninja Turtles 2 movie.
Yeah.
That was him when he was a little kid. You remember the show? His dad was his stepdad was a cop who was kind of adopting him. Well, he was just a total martial artist, and in one episode, he was being bullied by this bigger kid at school, and they got into a few fights. And his dad was just telling him, you gotta let it go, don't fight back and everything. You just gotta just try and be the bigger man. But the other kid kept picking fights, and so they had this rivalry together. And the way they swept it under the rug was one day Ernie was walking down the street and saw some other kids beating up the bully. So he jumped in and fought and beat up the other kids. And then, they shook hands and it was all over because he like helped the bully. That's what I see happening. Some stupid resolution like that. That's just disinteresting and uncreative, or uninteresting and discreative.
The only sidekicks I remember is the one with Chuck Norris and the kid from
Never the Karate Kid remake.
Yeah.
That's a great movie too, by the way. Chuck Norris was coming to Comic-Con, by the way. Anyway, yeah. So I'm excited about the series, and I loved it. I was entertained the entire time. It was funny and tense all at the same time. It was a really good mesh with the drama, and that's what the Karate Kid movies were. You wanted to have the tone just kind of balanced right there in the middle, but when it was important, it was serious. They got serious, and I was hooked at the end when they had the showdown. Even when Daniel goes out, gets in his car, and he's just looking in the window from his car, even though he had the headlights on, and Johnny's walked to the door to look out to watch him in the car. No way he would have been able to see inside with the headlights on right there, but still, it was a really good showdown. I really liked that. It was a showdown.
Well,
but I liked that.
What I also thought I liked about that was when Johnny's looking at him, he smiles. Like it's the first time in the whole 2 episodes where he looks like he's happy, right?
Yeah. So, yep, you're right.
So he's finally got that conflict. It's something that he can live for, It's something that it's really interesting to see. I'm super excited about watching the rest of it.
And like you said, it's not revenge. He's not like, oh, I got under his skin. It's more about that he feels like he's actually doing something. When he walked out of the studio, he's like, I'm going to redo the Cobra Kai. I'm going to help this kid that's been annoying me for a few days. And now he's getting there. And even though his studio has a lot of work to do before he can even open for business, he has a lot of problems that he's still trying to deal with. Daniel was just reminding him of what, the pain that he remembered from the fight. Now, then that showdown scene, and like you said, he smiled. I did enjoy that. It was a true reaction that he's like, you know what? Things are going to change. And it gets the audience on board that we're excited to see what's going to happen next. And I don't think he's going to turn into a bully again. I really don't. I think he's going to stand his ground, as Ralph Macchio saying his ground. Because if you think about it, both of them are right. If they just sat down and got everyone together and had a discussion and explained, by the way, this is the girl that hit my car. That's why I had to take you there. And he's the one that did this, and the kid that was a bully, and this is what really happened. This is how he's acting at the dinner table. This isn't how he really is. If they just all had everything unveiled, it would be like, oh, okay, I understand where you're coming from. There's no need to fight. But that's not interesting, so they have to not know what's going on with all the other parties involved. And there's a lot of characters, and I like all of them.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen is they're going to slowly reveal what was really going on and then keep it interesting with the characters figuring that out.
Yeah, I'm also really interested in the characters. The boy who kind of Sam digs, the Asian kid who's one of the rich kids from school. That's going to be an interesting part of it too. And also shout out to Billy Zabka for adding Iron Eagle shows, clips in there too.
I was trying to figure that out. What was the show?
Iron Eagle. It was the old movie from the 80s, an airplane movie. That's the movie he's watching on the old timey TV that he's got. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It all spills into he hasn't progressed at all since the 80s. Like they did that so artfully well with just music choices, stuff he's watching on TV. He's watching Iron Eagle on TV, for crying out loud. He's living in the same place where Daniel was living. He hasn't progressed at all. He's been stuck in that moment since it happened.
Was that a movie that had John Kreese in it or something?
No, I don't think so. No, Iron Eagle is just an 80s movie, 80s cult classic.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Cobra Kai comes out May 2nd, and we saw it on the 25th. and it was awesome. Really enjoyed it.
I did. So.
All right. Well, if you watch this, if you watch it before it comes out, tell us what you're excited about. If you watch it after it comes out, tell us what you thought. But we're happy to hear what you guys think, because we love the Karate Kid, and this is a solid, exciting next chapter in this story. Skipping the stupid one with the girl, but not excluding the awesome one that was a remake with Jaden Smith.
Yeah.
All right, we'll save that for another time. But anyway, I'm Tim Wild.
And I'm Josh Edler.
And thanks for watching Saints on Cinema. Have a good night, guys.